Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here, and I have the privilege of summarizing the main points from Plenary 4 that we heard earlier this morning. One thing is, when I was asked to take on this summary, the first thing that I did was I took a look at the title of the plenary and thought, wow, I'm glad I'm asked to be to summarize and not actually be one of the panelists, because I looked at this topic and thought, what would they say? You know, where would they start? And I am very pleased that these 6 individuals had some excellent things to say, and I hope that in the probably 6 minutes I have left that I can do a little bit of justice to the points that they offered, both in their presentations and also their papers. So when their papers are uploaded, I really recommend that you go and read them in their entirety, because they had a lot more to offer than they were able to put into the plenary this morning. Okay, so as I read these papers, one of the things that was so interesting is, even though the authors they acknowledged that they were coming from a certain journal that had a specific aim and a specific audience, that nonetheless there were 4 themes and 3 recommendations that I saw emerge that cut across all of these journals. The first was unanimous support for this goal of integrating theory, research, and practice in our scholarly endeavors. Each of the journals had a different idea, or each of the editors and editorial board members had different ideas of what that might look like in their journals, but there was support for this as an overall professional goal for us. And related to this, and I was really pleased to see this, is that there was also an acknowledgement and an encouragement for us to recognize that theory, research, practice integration is not a linear process. And it's not unidirectional, that it is bidirectional in nature. We need to understand the dynamic interactions that occur between these 3 processes and harness what Nadja mentioned the other day as the recursive process. So then the second theme that emerged was, let me just make sure I can scroll down here. Oh, I lost my, oh, here it is. Great. Was agreement that the integration of practice may be the hardest one for us to really do well. All of the journals mentioned that the people who are submitting manuscripts look a lot like us. Many of them are academics, they're researchers. Not as many practitioners are creating manuscripts and submitting them to these journals. And because of that, we have a distance, many of us, from the actual practice that's happening. And the challenge then is for us to write implications for practice, that last section, that are meaningful and useful, and avoid what Ryan Duffy described as the underwhelming and uncreative implications. So this set of papers really challenged us to improve our understanding of what real practice looks like, and to make sure that we're able to translate our work into that language. The third theme that I saw emerging was an acknowledgement that the theories that we use are inextricably embedded in the context in which they were developed. We need to recognize when they're useful and when we may need to broaden the paradigms, the conceptual frameworks that we're using to do this work. So different theories that were mentioned as being potentially useful for us would be the models of David Bluestein, Mark Savickas, McMahon and Patton and Gouchard. These were ones that came up again and again across these papers as ones that we should continue to look at and expand the use of. And then the fourth theme was that the continued advancement of theory, research, and practice and this integration challenges us to continue to expand our professional gaze. So expand our gaze beyond those populations and those issues that have been a traditional focus. The authors of these papers urged us to consider how we can better understand career development for those individuals for whom choice is limited or perhaps non-existent, who are navigating work and the world of work while living at the intersection of multiple identities, who are facing substantive barriers of oppression, discrimination, and economic disadvantage. So okay, 2 minutes left. All right. So these themes then initially might seem a little overwhelming, but thankfully there were also some excellent recommendations that were offered by these editors and editorial board members. The first was urging us to consider the use of collaborations. And these are both disciplinary collaborations, so perhaps with IO psychologists, and also interprofessional collaborations with other types of professionals like practitioners. They urged us to think about special issues and different topics that could be proposed that would cross disciplinary boundaries, or that would be on projects that have been developed from the ground up, that are co-created by researchers and by practitioners. And Itamar even suggested that using ICT really is a natural conduit for fostering collaboration with practitioners, as well as for developing that theory, research, practice feedback loop that will continue to advance this work. Secondly, we should look at our editorial boards as a tool for advancing our integration of theory, research, and practice. So Donna had mentioned that we should attend to how we craft who's on the board so that we have diversity in its makeup, so that our boards are both international and interdisciplinary, and that by doing so, we can encourage the type of dialogue that will continue to advance our efforts at this integration. And Lisa offered some concrete suggestions for how we can involve practitioners, both in the editorial process and as authors. And really one of the take-home messages for me from her paper was that a little bit of outreach can go a long way. And finally, the last set of recommendations was around broadening the range of theories that we use, as I had mentioned earlier as one of the themes. Itamar suggested that testing a theory's propositions is not enough, that we must also develop opportunities to refute theories and contrast them. Smith argued that in order for the research that we do to reflect the realities of contemporary work and work environments, that we should consider using constructivist theories and some of the postmodern theories that were mentioned before. And all together, these authors encouraged us to look for theories that aren't just focused on explaining the universals, but are also focused on capturing the uniqueness and intricacies of the lived experiences and the personal meaning-making of individuals. Thank you.